Hello, welcome. The project was funded by the UK National Quantum Technology Programme, the Quantum Communication Hub, and EPSRC. But most importantly, this provided the ideal platform to foster collaboration, which are essential to our work. In fact, we have now expanded the team to 37 members across UK and internationally.
So we're demonstrating various network functionalities and various application scenarios that will open up for private users even, or for banks, or for small-scale businesses, links from them to central banking facilities, government voting facilities, government information stores, to show that they can establish those secure communications.
During this event, we used commercial QKD solution for our demos. Thanks to these devices, we could establish secure communication in what we call a software-defined, fully meshed, and dynamically switched metropolitan network. And this was done on the 5G UK testbed in Bristol.
We all know that 5G is becoming de facto, and one of the great advantages of 5G is that it's very dynamic, it's very high speed, and it needs a very low latency. And therefore, security is becoming important because you deal with lots of users, with lots of information.
But more than just showing example of secure video conferencing, data storage or transfer, we have also demonstrated a practical use cases called handheld QKD. For that, we used one node of the network to host a special website server. This server was secured with a version of the well-known TLS protocol that we have modified in order to use the specific quantum-generated keys of encryption that only a genuine user could obtain, and then, of course, access the website.
All of the demos are important because they demonstrate this evolutionary step in the quantum technology, where we now move from the research phase into the developmental phase, and we can start considering applying it into the real life.
All of these previous achievements from last year were focusing on the higher layer of the network stack protocols. This was necessary for the integration of commercial QKD systems. In our new line of research, we are increasing the versatility of our testbed by adding a new network provider based on entanglement. By doing so, we go beyond just creating QKD links between each node in the network, thanks to entanglement, which is a crucial feature for many other cryptographic primitives. In the following video, we would like to introduce you to this next generation of quantum networks that, unlike any other, scales linearly with resources, and thus paves the road towards a scalable, larger and larger quantum network, and maybe even the future quantum internet. Hi again. Let's tune into our collaborator in IQOKI Vienna and have a look at how a quantum network is different from the trusted node approach, but where the main purpose remains to provide unconditionally secure transmission.
Unconditionally secure really means that the laws of physics guarantee that no eavesdropper, no adversary can listen in on your conversation. However, so far, most experimental implementations have focused on two communicating partners only. Traditionally, we call them Alice and Bob. So it's just the two of them talking to each other in a secure way, but I mean, an internet with only two participants doesn't sound very exciting. And what can you do if you want to include more participants? Let's say Chloe here also wants to join the secure quantum network. Well, one obvious choice is to just establish another connection between Bob and Chloe, and then if Alice wants to talk to Chloe, she needs to relay her message via Bob. But this of course means that Bob needs to be trusted. He's a so-called trusted node. And this is actually a rather strong limitation on security, because what if Alice doesn't even know Bob or just doesn't trust him? So to make really unconditionally secure communication between Alice and Chloe possible, you would need another direct connection. But as you can imagine, these connections, they become a mess pretty fast if you include more and more participants. So let's say Dave here also wants to join the network. Then you already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 connections. And as you can see here already, the number of connections actually grows much faster than the number of participants. So I'm too lazy to draw this, but for 10 people, you need 45 connections already. And for 100, it's even 5,000. Now imagine if each of these connections needed separate hardware. And that is the typical state of quantum communication as of now. Our network is here to change that. And the solution comes in the form of quantum entanglement. Instead of now connecting each and every user with each other and with one direct connection, we came up with a scheme that only requires one glass fiber per user connected to a source of photonic entanglement. So instead of this mess, you have a nice star topology. If you look at this now, you could however ask, well, but isn't this source now the trusted node, just like Bob was before in the communication between Alice and Chloe? But thanks to quantum physics, the answer is no. The photons that are sent, thanks to the laws of quantum mechanics, leave no information at the source behind. Using only one fiber per user is a huge cost saver and makes the implementation much simpler. In our case, we fully connected 8 users using only 8 fiber connections instead of 28.
And using only 8 polarization analysis module, thanks to our collaborator from the RBI Photonics and Quantum Optics labs in Zagreb. We achieved this by combining several multiplexing stages, making the network easily scalable. And now, more experimental detail about the experiment we did last year in Bristol. This was the first demonstration of an entanglement-based network with 8 users. The strategy we decided to follow relied on a combination of passive beam splitters and clever wavelength attribution to each user in order to obtain a fully connected quantum correlation layer, as you can see here. This means that each user was at least sharing one photon of a pair with every other user on the network. And we did this while maintaining and minimizing the resource overhead in the physical layer. This physical layer is made of several essential bricks. The first one is a polarization entanglement photon pair source. As you can see here in the top left corner, this is based on the Sagnac scheme, which helps with maintaining a good phase stability over time. It is worth mentioning that this kind of source are already commercially available. The multiplexing unit is a second essential brick and is based on off-the-shelf DWDM component, and it permits us to decide the subset of wavelength that each user will receive in a single glass fiber. And this user will all be provided with a analysis module that will allow them to analyze in 2 complementary bases the entangled polarization states. So this is done through the use of classic optical free space units, a beam splitter, a polarizing beam splitter, a half-wave plate, and of course they also need 2 detectors and the associated electronic to gather the data. To come back towards the multiplexing unit, to maintain a good polarization state in a network of significant size, we also needed to use several fiber polarization controllers. So in order to build together this complex device that actually defines the whole network, we decided to splice everything together in order to minimize the losses. So fun fact, it meant 400 splices, 250 meters of tapes, 500 meters of fiber patch cords. And in the end, we were able to establish continuous QKD exchange over several hours without any need for realignment or manual adjustment of the polarization. So the only limited factor was the recycling time of our detector cryostat. At the time in Bristol, we had only 16 detectors. That's why we chose 8 users. But now we have more than 50 detectors. So our strategy for the future of the experiment in Bristol, if you look at our roadmap here towards the quantum internet, it's not only to increase the amount of users in the network, but also to take advantage of the feature provided by a classical network by enabling the dynamical switching capability to actually change in live the topology of our network to accommodate for several events that could happen on a real network, such as the key rate could be different on different points of the network, depending on the demand of the users, or you would want to implement different cryptographic primitives that have different scenario and demand on the key rate. So all of these considerations are our vision towards the future quantum internet. Thank you for watching and listening. For more detail, please contact us through the booth in the showcase. Thank you.